good afternoon here in London, and it's very much good morning in New York. And I have this great pleasure and honor to talk to someone that I consider as a friend, as a young friend, because I have the privilege of knowing him from his youth days and days when he was already a legend and not a rising star, but a very, very bright star already on the sky of classical music worldwide. And the name is, of course, a name that everybody knows and recognizes. It's Maxim Vengerov. Good morning, Maxim.
Mr. President, good morning, good afternoon to you. It's an honor to speak to you. Thank you.
Well, it's what we are going to speak about. As you well know, we are organizing a big conference together with National University of Singapore, which is one of the best universities in the world. I mean, the top ones, and with a great departments, especially on health and medical department. And our conference is devoted to health, well-being, and longevity. But this is not a medical conference. This is not a biomedical conference or a pharmaceutical conference. This is basically looking at our life as a whole, about our health, about the well-being, be that if you are lucky living in a successful place and you are successful yourself, or if you are living in a country which in some places in Africa, or maybe in a remote village of India. For every individual, health, well-being, and longevity matters. And this is what I would like to speak and to ask your opinion, because personally, well, I don't believe that there is life without music. I think it would look like Sorkava. I think without music, we'll lose color of our life. It will be gray. And music brings us happiness. We use music on our best days, our happiest days, and we use music on our saddest days. That's the way we live our life. And it definitely, music is connected with us, with our well-being, with our health. And of course, music accompanies those who are living 100 years or more. So, what do you think, Maxim? What is your feeling about music and health and life? It's a very philosophical question.
Very philosophical and a very broad subject. We can, in a nutshell, I think music has and always had the potential, and which is always in the disposal of people. It's always there for not only for entertainment, because in a very much so, and very often music is perceived as only entertainment tool. To if you have an evening to pass, you go to the concert, you spend time with your spouse, with your wife, with your kids, and so you have time off. Music is recharging, and of course it's wonderful to do so. But on the other hand, music has its potential to be also to have the therapeutical effect on people. And it has been there for all the centuries since the beginning of creation of man. Because music is light, is sound. It's when we first the humans started humming. First there was music, then there were definition of words and making sense of that. But music is vibration. It's a pure vibration and light. And my modest mission in my life and my greatest privilege is to travel around the world and to bring these vibrations that has been there for so long. And we have an amazing heritage of the greatest composers, such as Mozart, Tchaikovsky, Beethoven, just to mention a few, and that are highly charged with so much positive emotions. Those emotions are and vibrations are healing to our brain, and to our body that affects us much later, tomorrow, day after tomorrow. And there has not been enough studies made on how
on it.
audiences. And my mission is not only to be, and my task is not only to be a good, skillful musician, such as violin player or when I conduct the orchestra, but also to work on my development as a human being. And music is an important and indispensable tool for me personally, how to develop myself as a personality. I couldn't have been more happy to be born musician because it always stimulates me to open other dimensions in life. And when I go on stage and I play magical compositions of Mozart, Mozart has set this amazing and very high bar of standards, of living standards on stage. So when you go off stage, there is this moment when you are really, literally, spiritually, and your body is flying. And this, of course, you can't have that on everyday basis. But the challenge of the musician is to have to balance their ups and downs, because the concert's supposed to be ups, and then when you go into to normal life, so to say, when you have to deal with problems, which are just normal, problems are there, as we know, to fix them. So this is another life. But the standards. You've been on stage yesterday, and you want to create magic everywhere. And because of music, I know it's possible to create this magic with friends, in your family, in business, in all relationship. And that's why I'm so lucky to be a musician, to be able to have this an important, indispensable tool in my life to become a better human being.
Well, you are absolutely right, and I will second what you were saying, that you are so lucky that you are a musician. Sometimes in my mind, when I pray, I say, God, if I'm going to be reborn again, can you make me a composer? Because if you think about great contributors to humanity, be that scientists, be that Albert Einstein or Isaac Newton, they are great scientists, physicists, or mathematicians, biologists. They have made huge impact on our lives, but we don't live with them every day. We know that they have done, and a lot of people don't even know what they have done. They know that they were great scientists, and that was it. Even the great artists, that be that Leonardo da Vinci or Velasquez or Claude Monet or any great artist, again, it's a wonderful contribution to our lives, and we lived with them. They are lucky individuals that have in their possession these great artists' paintings or sculptures. The others have to put an effort, especially going to a museum to see them. Well, in the case of music is with you all the time. It is just on specific day and time when you are followed with music, especially now. You walk the street, there are no human beings. There is a human being walking with music because they have all the earphones with their iPads, and everybody is the individual walking with their music. And of course, they put an effort to go and hear great musicians live. That's the peak of their. But music is something that is with you every day.
Yes, Well, that's, I totally agree with you. And but sometimes, like Shostakovich, very famous, of course, Russian Soviet composer, said that music should never be enforced upon you. It must be always your choice. So he always meant that the music has to be, it's an act of spiritual, um, it's a session. It's a spiritual session when listening to music, and you have to dedicate especially time for that. In our times today, it's all mixed. When we walk into the all the lobbies of the hotel, we hear music, as you say. When we go on airplanes, so it's not, the attitude is not necessarily correct, in my opinion, as a musician. Uh, on the other hand, the studies of young students of some universities have shown that they had two groups of students preparing for exams, and one group of students were preparing exams while listening to music, and the other half was not, was just in complete silence, and the music was composed by Mozart. So the group of the students that were listening to music and preparing their exams did by far generally better than the group that didn't listen to music. So it's always a question, yes. So what kind of music do we listen to is always a choice. What performers are. There are so many elements to a great performance. For instance, when I go to the concert hall, there are at least 4 or 5 elements that I have to consider to make a successful concert. First of all, of course, the music, and we are the servants of music, musicians. So there is music, there is a concert hall that has to be in tune with this music. The acoustic has to be perfect and appropriate for this music to be played. Then a performer that will deliver an adequate performance and will deliver in full, will be spiritually and physically prepared, fully prepared to deliver this music to audiences. Then audience that are ready to take this in, that they're just there not for an accident. By purpose, they go to listen. But also another element that's very important is the instruments, and I'd like to talk briefly about that later in our conversation. The instrument that I play on, Stradivari. So all these elements, when they are matched together and when they're in harmony, then for me, this is the perfection, if such exists.
Well, it exists. In fact, you can add to your research about the students, another student, whose name was Armen Sarkissian when I was young, and I was preparing to exams because I was sort of free to go to lectures as a good student. I was very preparing when I was reading things that it was very concentrated, and I was always listening Bach, and for a simple reason, somehow Bach was very harmonious with me, and it was not bothering me. It was just a part of my fabric. In the case of Mozart, if there was Mozart, I had to stop. I couldn't do anything else rather than listen to Mozart. I'm not speaking about Beethoven. You have to basically act with him. In the case of Mozart, it's very difficult to have him as a background. In the case of Bach, it's so sort of inside you and goes. This is my personal experience. And every morning I start with Bach basically showing me making me very humble in this life, showing that there is the genius, the God that has decided via Bach or Mozart or Beethoven or other great artists and performers to make it happen. And you live your life, but music is a part of our fabric, and unfortunately we don't understand our body and our health as good as we understand, for example, elementary particles or cosmology or the universe. It's amazing, but a fact, because it's very difficult to explain how on earth there are pieces of music when you listen, you want to cry.
Yes.
But it's different. People is different. I mean, Indians have their own music. They want to cry, but there are pieces of serenades and others of Bach and others that you listen, and it reminds me a sad story of losing someone, a friend or anything. So music by its own has huge impact on your psychology, on your internal balance, and by that, of course, on your whole body. I mean, that's something which is huge.
Yeah, I remember when I enrolled to become UNICEF's ambassador in 1997. One of my first trips were to Uganda, where I played for kids abducted by Lord's Resistance Army. Some of them managed to escape, and they were hosted by UNICEF's camps that were rehabilitating these kids. Those kids came through trauma of war. They were used as soldiers. Many atrocities has been done, rapes, and I was at that time 23 years old, and the impact that this trip has left on me as a human being, I still feel that. I remember kids being, without parts of their bodies. For me as a musician, I'm feeling this, the sensitivity, and the atrocities that has been done by the army has been terrible. But so you would come there, and I would have my violin. I could not speak their language, and they were sort of numb. They would not speak to anyone for understandable reasons. Now I would pick up the violin. I would start playing, and I could see the twinkle, the smile. And this connection was made between us. It was just instant. And they would pick up their instruments, whatever they played, and all of them played something, whether it was a piece of stick with them, and they would, go against the wooden stick, just to produce the sound, to make it, and actually very skillfully. I was very amazed how good they did. So we started improvising together. It was one of the most rewarding and learning experience in my life that I still remember. Another thing about when you mentioned about losing someone, it was another trip that I made following year in Thailand, and among the many projects of UNICEF that we visited, it was the monk community in the hill tribe community in the in mountains. You wouldn't get there by car, but by motorcycles, because no soul could come there. And what I learned, all of a sudden, when we entered the village, I heard this amazing, beautifully music sung by children's choir, and there were like 20 kids singing perfectly in tune, so beautiful, like angels. It was really so mesmerizing. And then tears immediately started pouring, and it was very emotional moment to see this purity in kids surrounded by nature. And really I felt so close to the Almighty for this experience. I thank God. Then we went to the monk community, and we entered the building, and there were people that were infected and actually sick on the last stages of HIV/AIDS. And immediately I took the violin and I said, I'm going to play for you something. And I played Bach. I played the Bach Adagio from the first sonata, and I could see some people were weeping. And in the end of this little concert that I've done, people were hugging me and thanking me for the music that I brought to them. It was such a great and amazing reward, and it made me understand, first of all, how fortunate we are to be healthy, to think about future. Secondly, it made me realize how powerful the impact of music can be for people like this. And then I had many, many more experiences playing in retirement communities, in Royal Hospital, in London. Again, I have to mention this amazing experience when I was playing a couple of pieces for that. One of them was Brahms Hungarian dance. That is, very dancing and very funny. And people at the Royal Hospital, there was a department of cerebral palsy people. So I started playing, and then the nurse came to me while I was playing and point me to the direction of an old lady that was sitting on the wheelchair, and her foot was tapping. And she said to me while I was playing, "This is a miracle. She has not done that for a very long time, as I know her. She's already here for 2 years, and this is the first time I can see that." So now, how the music has impacted her brain and these vibrations made her feel alive inside. This was also pure miracle that I've experienced with music. So many interesting things. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think every and each individual, everyone can tell stories and another story and another story about connection of music to their life, to their psychology, well-being, happy days, non-happy days, and so on and so forth. And amazingly, one of the first things that I do remember when I was even baby, Maxim, can you imagine I was baby as well? Now I am 7 years old. I do remember because I do remember it was back in Armenia in Soviet Union, and we had this wired radio in our house. And amazingly, Soviet Union being a sort of absolutely materialistic society, absolutely in atheistic society, had realized the power of music. And I do remember when I was very, very small, the first piece of Beethoven I heard from the Soviet radio in a form. You don't remember, maybe. Every and each morning, early in the morning, the whole Soviet Union had to do exercise. I mean,
Yes, I remember that. Horrific. I still remember that.
Idea, all over the Soviet Union, from Kaliningrad up to Vladivostok, at specific time in the morning, they had to do exercise, morning exercise at home before the day was starting, and it was the same music. And I realized later that the music that they're putting, which sort of encouraging, giving you a lot of energy, was the fifth piano concerto of Beethoven. So the Soviet Union, in order to encourage the masses, hundreds of millions of Soviet citizens to go forward to build communism, was Beethoven's fifth piano concerto. This was what I saw, and it was working because it was so energetic, so sort of giving you the power of optimism. I mean, this is fantastic. And then in my life, I've seen many cases, and sadly, I saw recently one how powerful is music connected with artists. I was in Berlin recently and went to a concert of Daniel Barenboim. Unfortunately, his health is not the best at all, and he was sort of walking with great difficulty, and they had a special chair for him to sit and conduct his orchestra, the Divan Orchestra. And he refused that. He refused to sit. And he conducted standing. And the person who was standing there, who couldn't move, while he started conducting, it was someone absolutely healthy, because the power of music that he became in. Then I saw him after the concert. He was, of course, devastated. He was very weak. But at that moment, before the music and during the music and after the music, these were two different personalities. So it brings me to question about how important is health for a musician and what do you do for that? I've heard legends about how very precisely Yasha Heifetz was looking after his health. When I think I'm listening to his playing and his music, you can understand that because everything is in very order. Every note is in place. Everything must be there. So I'm very interested. How is health? Do you exercise yourself? What is that you do for your health personally? And of course, a part of you as a musician is your instrument, your violin. If you can tell us about your violin, you, and health, how is that connected to each other?
Yes, so very important, the health. So we are as a sort of a vehicle of transporting the music everywhere, musicians. We have to be always prepared to be at service to music, to prepare our body, but also our mental state, ready for a concert. Because as I say, you know, for me, each concert, and this is very, very interesting, that each concert is for me like launching a rocket into the space. Literally, you know, when if you imagine the level of energy that you need to take this great machine of, and I'm talking about really like a machine, a vehicle to go to space, such as composers as Shostakovich, as Tchaikovsky and Mozart, to completely different style degree, but still, this is always is a spiritual act, and the body has to be always at service. You know, if one thing is actually behind or not in tune, mental and physical is not in tune with each other, then the concert doesn't have that impact. And that, of course, is a everyday practice. Today, I don't practice so much on the violin because I've done that when I was 4, 5, 6 years old. I trained like 7, 8 hours a day when I was in my youth. But at the age of 7, I could already perform more sophisticated works, such as Mendelssohn Violin Concerto, for instance. Yeah? So Mendelssohn Violin Concerto is already very advanced work, which I was playing with orchestra at the age of 7. So I think because of this early development, it has also given me some leverage and some space also to further develop myself and to look broader into music, to broaden my horizons, to look beyond just the musical composition, to go and look into the spirituality in spiritual side of music and what it can offer. And what can I do with my body, with my 2 hands, with my brain, with my heart, and with my violin that you mentioned, Stradivari? What can I do for music to better my performance, to perfect it, to have more impact on audiences? And all of these things requires a great discipline. When people tells me, "Oh, this is wonderful, you're an artist. I would like to be an artist," because they think, some people think artist is so free. It's free of any obligation. It's just one is born being very talented, and this flower is growing like in the flower in the field that almost not doesn't need water. I mean, the rain is sufficient, so it's all nature. But it's actually greatest discipline. The music is the worst discipline that you can imagine, starting from childhood. As I said, I was working for 7, 8 hours a day because my teacher back in Siberia said to me, that the kids with more talent has to practice more. And also, as we know, the Siberia so cold. So she also told me that, and it's not bad for you because, in your apartment it's probably very cold, like in mine. So, you can keep yourself warm.
So you had the choice either to play ice hockey or
Yes.
to play violin.
So
Ice hockey
actually,
in Siberia minus 30, probably minus 35. It's not the most pleasant thing. No,
yeah.
it's your
So,
talent and your genius that was there.
yeah. So I was, back to, discussing the discipline. It takes from very early in the morning when I wake up. First of all, my routine. First of all, I do the mental start, close my eyes, and visualize music, visualize life, and plan the day for about 15, 20 minutes. Then I do the physical exercise, some all the stretching that I need for my, and I'm not 20 anymore, so I'm 49 now.
Well, 20 plus. It's okay.
20 plus, yes. But 50 minus, so I'm 49. So, but the impact of all the traveling, for instance, you travel long distance to Singapore, will take, like 10 plus hours, possibly. And this, it has physical implications on you, definitely. You feel some tiredness, some soreness in the body, which is just normal. So then you must always think about how to recharge yourself, get yourself mentally and physically ready, not only for a concert, but for your life. And for me, being as an artist is not only the time of the concert, but you have to go through all the stages to prepare yourself for the concert. And as I say always, 95% of being an artist is a pure work, hard work. And then this 5%, you leave it for the stage when you unleash yourself, your spirit, your body, and then you forget about everything and you create. You create, like you mentioned, the greatest Leonardo, Da Vinci, Monet, and others. And this is the moment when the truth comes. That's when you really learn about life.
Well, yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, you also mentioned we wanted to talk about the instrument because it's one of the magics that I have in my life since I was very, very early, when I was a kid. I was 10 years old, and the state collection of in Soviet Union has lent me the Stradivari, which was half size, which Antonio Stradivari made for a child. Is one very rare example of Stradivari that made a half-size instrument. So this instrument is in the state collection in Russia, and at that time they gave me this instrument, and I thought, by picking up and starting playing this instrument, I would immediately sound so much better, and I would become a fantastic musician. So I took this violin and started playing, and instead of magical sound, I heard the squeaking sound. And I backed off, and I asked my father, who was in the room, "Is that a Stradivari?" And he said, "Don't worry, this instrument, the Stradivari will teach you how to play the violin. You can play the violin, but Stradivari," and just for someone who doesn't know the details, Stradivari lived a very long life, well into his 80 plus. And at that time, of course, in 1727, when my violin was made that I play now, he was already 80 years old. So just amazing to see the life of the human being devoting his life to art. So this little box, when I take it, creates a magical sounds. It has the colors that I've never heard before in my life, and particularly this instrument that I play now for so many years is very special because it was made by the great master in his later period of his life, when he started building the very special models that had even more richer sound, more sort of the degree of overtones and vibrations that go, if affect and impact the audiences in such strong way. So I also have to have this relationship with my violin. So it's my body, my mental being, my violin. It's part of this, and this is a great work because sometimes you come to the countries like in Asia, and actually Singapore. I remember it was back 20 years ago when I came for the first time to this wonderful country, and I remember landing in the airport and then went to the hotel, opened my violin. It was so humid that the violin simply didn't play the way I expected to play because of the changes of weather and the changes of temperature, dry, humid, and on the airplane it was very dry. In the room in Singapore at that time, it was a wet period. So I went to the concert and started playing a recital, which consists of two halves, 50 minutes and break 50 minutes. My mother was at that time with me in the concert. I started playing, and the first half of the concert was such struggle. So my mother knew that I'm struggling with the instrument because the instrument simply is battling with the weather conditions. So in the break, mom enters my dressing room without saying anything, takes the violin, starts whispering something to it, and gives it back to me. I was stunned, and I smiled. I came to the second half. I returned to on stage. The violin sounded back to its magical. Can you explain that?
Well, I think it's another human magic. And I think you told us a story not only about human health, but also about the health of great music instrument. And that music instrument basically changes with the change of environment, the climate. And it sounds
Yes.
either good or it sounds as not very good. And it has probably also something like a soul, because your mother could speak, or your mother is a magician. She knows how to speak the violin. But this is takes us to a space of human activity which we really don't understand. When we were thinking about this conference, yes, it's important that we look at human life and health, well-being, longevity overall as a very wide issue, rather than just a medical, pharmaceutical, or surgery. No, just let's look at the importance of everything in our life connected with our health. Because at the end of the day, when we complain about climate change and the issues that are rising from their migration, drought, then loss of human lives, and everything eventually comes to one bottom line, which is human life and the health. Because of the climate change, people lose their health, people lose their well-being, people lose their, and many things are basically following this simple thing. The health and well-being, the life is the core of the activity. And when we were making the plans of the conference and saying, okay, health and life and well-being connected with geopolitics. Your geopolitical movements and decisions worldwide are having huge impact on people's health. Then things like health and space. Obviously, space is the next frontier, and many things will happen. Will probably produce new things in space connected with health or new drugs. but also how we are going to live in the space in the future. I mean, several hundred years later, health and artificial intelligence, because that's the future of our planet. Many things could be discovered with the help of artificial intelligence. So there are many things, but there's another frontier which is absolutely not discovered, which is our health of our body and health of our mind and its connection with art, word, and many things, but specifically, very specifically with music. And this is something that I think we all feel it. We all share it. That's why your concerts are absolutely full. People are queuing to get tickets to come to your concert. But is there any scientist that can explain scientifically why all of this is happening? What's the connection between our brain and music, our mental condition and music? And of course, the mental health is directly having huge impact on our physical health. So by playing a wonderful piece of music, you are helping people not only to relax and to get positive emotions, but I'm absolutely sure you're helping them to get better health, because better brain, better internal condition of our emotions are helping for our body to be much more healthier. So there's something that in the future, a lot of scientific research must be done to find out really how does it work and what's the reason. And I think it's very nice to say about spirit, about I think we know, we have learned during all of these years of humanity to describe emotionally our relations between music and health, but where's the science behind it? We're absolutely nowhere. As I said in the beginning of our discussion, we can explain many things in the universe, in cosmos. We can explain elementary particles, but can we explain a huge impact that music of the same composer can have on millions and millions of people? Can we explain the fact the same beautiful music played by amateur or not good musician has zero impact, and the same piece played by Maxim Vengerov has a dramatic impact? And these are questions which are, for me, they have scientific value, and there's no explanation there yet. But I don't have comfort. I don't have discomfort because I still live enjoying music.
No, you're absolutely right about the lack of scientific research on music. You know, many random studies has been done about music, but not really targeted specifically to investigate in depth and to register, you know, how the vibrations actually impacting people in different ways, from different music with different musicians in different environments. So this has been underdeveloped yet, but this is yet to discover. This is science, as you say. And when we talk about the science and experimental projects that, you know, I've done one very interesting experiment in Israel, in Tel Aviv, in 2014. I've decided to play a concert in the almost complete darkness. So what we did is actually we switched off all the lights in the concert hall, where 2,500 people packed full concert hall, and we just lit the electronic candles. We put them on stage, so it, you know, the atmosphere was very romantic, and it was not about the visual effects, but it was all about auditory experience. My idea was to see how people would react to music in the dark just by listening, basically closing their eyes. Because for me, what we actually observe today, music becomes more and more part of entertainment today. It's more about visual. We have lots of visual things and the effects, but not enough devoted to the sound, to actual. When we listen to music, it's like vibrations coming at us, and music reflect our emotions and vice versa. So during the 2-hour concert, I played, I chose the specific works by Bach, second partita, with its famous chaconne in the end, and then Frank Sonata with the pianist. So I played this 1 hour, and then with the break, short break, I played these works again. And then we gave the survey, to people how they felt during the first half and how they felt during the second half, and were there any difference? So majority of people in the concert hall wrote that in the first half they were still adjusting. They were still adjusting to. Some of them were actually not in discomfort, but it was unusual atmosphere for them because they're used to the concert hall with lots of lights and visual. Now in the second half, the magic happened. It was like a session of meditation for everyone, including myself. I've never had such experience in my life before. I was like a pure channel from the composer to the audience. There was nothing in between us. There was a pure connection with my instrument, with the audience. I was talking to audience with my violin, and then the responses of the audience, they said it was mesmerizing, it was so healing. Many people cried, wept because of the intensity of music, especially in the second half when they were listening again. So that leads me to the very important subject of repetitiveness in music. Really, it works like hypnotizing. It's a hypnosis. And many composers, including Mozart and Bach, that we love so much, they put the elements in different elements, in different configurations, but they repeat them. So they go into the mind of every human being, and they repeat the message over and over again. And I'm sure all the great composers, including Bach, they knew the effect of this repetitiveness. It's there for a reason. So this concept made me think of continuing one day this experiment and leading it to the next level to reinforce this experiment with the scientific studies. And I hope we could do it someday together.
Well, I hope that we can do that someday together, because after living a long life, and in fact, I would say several lives as a scientist, as a businessman, as diplomat and politician, now I thought that the best thing that I can devote my life is to really understand human life and understand what are the secrets of this life which we haven't discovered yet. Because what you were saying about, for example, music and vibrations, I discovered myself something when I came first in 1984 to London, to Cambridge University, and had the chance of visiting British Library to look at the handwritings of great musicians. I mean, I was shocked when I saw the notes written by Mozart and then Bach. And then I realized that again and again that this nature that we're a part of that is absolutely unified. Because the beauty of mathematics that existed in me, because I was trained as a mathematician, and I knew the beauties of mathematics, which is like an absolute truth, I found it in the notes, not in the notes that were in vibrations and I was hearing, but looking at the notes that were written by geniuses of music. So it's the same harmony, the same basically absolute beauty of construction. So I do believe that even if you don't play on this earth where these, because we have the air and we can create the vibrations. But we take these notes and play in a completely different frequency, which is not hearable, but even not we cannot see it. But there are species in the cosmos that they can hear that. They will get the same impression, because this is absolute beauty. This is the connection between music and nature, and we're a part of nature. And amazingly, what I'm finding now, after all of these years, that knowing so many things about our lives, we don't know ourselves, we don't know our body, we don't know our brain, how we work. And that's something, it's another journey. And I'll be very happy that we can do something together, maybe going back for me to scientific research. And I'm happy that colleagues at the National University of Singapore share with me the same ideas. And I'm happy to say that we all are thinking of next year to see you one day in Singapore, because we decided to honor great individuals that have contributed during their life to health, longevity, and well-being. Honor them that with special award, which is called Advance Tomorrow, basically looking at tomorrow, that we are creating together with the National University of Singapore, one of the best universities in the world, together with Atom Advance Tomorrow. And then we will be very happy to share with you that award and to see you. I will fly wherever I will be to come to Singapore to be present, and maybe we can think about a joint research program to look at how really music, what's the impact of music on our body, on our soul, on our brain. And as you said, years ago, I do remember when I was very young, somebody was telling me, because they asked me, do you like rock music? I said, yes. What do you like? I said, Jimi Hendrix. And the person said, I cannot believe you. How on earth you can like Jimi Hendrix and Beethoven or Bach? And I said, you don't realize that the first rock musician was Beethoven, because he was doing exactly as you were saying, repeating the theme, which is a base of modern music, be that a rock music or R&B and everything, repetition of the same message 1, 2, and maybe 1,000 times, and it has huge impact on our brain and our body, on our body.
The greatest jazz musician was Bach.
Yes,
Just by adapting the little rhythm, it becomes jazzy, becomes swing.
yeah, I think there's so much to discover, and I will be very happy that a part of that discovery road we go together. Once again, Maxim, I would like to thank you for this discussion, and I'm looking forward to spend more time of my life listening to your wonderful music, the magic of your hands on your great Stradivarius violin, and also to continue our discussions on magic of music and magic of human beings that are creating and also listening to this music. Thank you again, Maxim.
It's an honor, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Looking forward to see you soon.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.